you're good.
But I can give you a little bit of an overview. So what we want to talk about today is just when you made the jump to doing your own thing. And we really kind of want to focus on when you decided to do it, what it was like for you to kind of create this category that you're working in now, and see where you were at in terms of like all of the creator capitals, right? What was your financial runway? What kind of product or services or intellectual capital did you have out there? A lot of that mindset of, because the whole point of this podcast is just to kind of share stories of people who have done this on their own. And maybe we don't have everything figured out. None of us do, but being able to just give different examples so people can see there's probably something in your story that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And that's the goal. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I host a very similar podcast, so it's fun to be on the other side of this conversation.
And then at the very end, Nick, remind me, I want to get your story about your $30,000 weekend. Like, we got to get that too. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear about.
Oh yeah. Hey, you guys just wherever you want to go. Wherever you want to jam, I'm in.
All right. Awesome. Is there anything specific that you want us to mention or call out just so people can be aware of who you are, what you do, where to find you?
I mean, we're going to talk about full stack at some point. That's kind of the thing.
Do you call it Harness and Hone, or do you call it full stack?
Harness and Hone is my individual consulting company. Okay. Full stack is so that's all my private consulting work. Okay. But full stack is where I partnered with Erica to build this more asynchronous, kind of self-paced program. That's the volume play versus the private one-to-one stuff is a more relationship-based play.
And you also have a podcast.
The podcast is very 1,000 routes.
1,000 routes. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a quick little intro and we'll see how I use this.
However you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, we're learning and we're experimenting. So, okay. Hi, Nick. Welcome to the podcast. You are in our Category Design Academy. You are one of our students, and we are super stoked to talk to you today. Just to give people a quick overview of who you are and what you do. Nick runs the Full Stack Solopreneur. It teaches independent professionals, solopreneurs, the 3 essential skills of solopreneurship. And I know you talk to solopreneurs on your podcast, 1,000 Routes. So we're excited to dig into that and how the podcast is going. And then you also have your own private consulting company called Harness and Hone, where you kind of work one-on-one with people who are maybe need to level up their game. They need a little bit more one-on-one coaching. So thanks for being here today.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me.
So maybe you can just kick us off with when you took the leap, right? When did you start all of this? What was that timeline? And more importantly, like, what was the landscape in your personal life and the emotions that came with making that jump?
Yeah. So like many people, my leap was not by my choosing. So it was in June of 2023, the company I was working for restructured and they handed out a bunch of straws and I got the short straw. So I found myself without a job one day. And
what kind of a role were you doing, Nick? Just out of curiosity.
I was the director of marketing at a HubSpot, like an elite tier HubSpot agency.
Wow.
So like one of the bigger HubSpot agencies globally. So it's like the resume by all accounts should have opened up enough doors to get somewhere pretty quick. But you also realize pretty quickly when you look at like one job listing, a director of marketing role is 2,000 applicants. And I was like, fuck that. At the time, my son was 9 months old. And my wife works for our boys. We have 2 kids now, but she works for them. So it's my job to make sure that they get to eat and the lights stay on. So I realized that like, well, I need
and as George W. Bush famously said, it can be very hard to keep food on the family.
It is my job to put food on the family.
You got to put food on the family. You know, the other thing, I hate to interrupt you, Nick, but I'm going to.
That's why we're here.
I love that we're having this conversation because so much of what you hear about entrepreneurship, becoming a creator, going solo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever version of entrepreneur you are, whether you're doing space rockets or whether you're opening a pizza parlor or anything in between, you hear these stories. I'm going to share my origin story, and it's just this great thing, and it was magic, and there was fairies and unicorns, and it was fantastic and adventurous and exciting and creative. When in point of fact, I have found a meaningful percentage of people who make this kind of leap to what the hope will be a dream career. It wasn't any of that. It was an act of desperation to survive. That was my first business.
Yeah, 1000%. It was, I have a kid and a house and a wife, and it was like, time, figure it the fuck out is the name of the game. So you take one look at job listings and you're like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to go out here and try to compete and show them how much better I am at marketing than the 1,999 other people. So I figured, why not now? There's no time like now. I might as well just go figure it out. I know how to make money, so let's go do it. All the things that I've been saying about how I think marketing and all this shit should be done, well, let's just go do it and prove a point.
How much of what you did before at your prior agency was relevant to what you were starting to do? Like, and like, walk us through the timeline. Like, this happens. You said summer of 23.
Yeah. So the work that I was doing there was 100% the work that I started to try and do after I got laid off. Because
so same kind of clients, same kind of work, and all that kind of stuff.
So I was marketing in-house for them, so for an agency, and I realized, I was like, well, our challenge, the problem we faced in this world was we were doing something radically different, and everyone thought we were just a marketing agency, and we weren't. So how do we tell people how to perceive the thing that they're looking at? And we were going through this whole process trying to figure out, like, how do we define our category? How do we show people how to value us? And how do we condition the market around our ideas? And after I left, I was like, well, this isn't just our problem. Every marketing agency on the planet faces this problem. So let's go solve it. Like, let's go out there and show people.
And isn't it interesting that marketing agencies are undifferentiated?
It really boggles the mind, but you can get away with it at a low volume, I suppose. But they limp along. And so I started making a lot of noise about this idea. And I got this thing off the ground. I don't know. I think it was within a reasonable amount of time. Within like a few months, I had my first client. And I think, Chris, I sent you a LinkedIn message right after I closed my first client, because I was like, it fucking worked, man. Because I've been binging Category Pirates for maybe a year or two by then. One of my coworkers introduced your work to me. He was like, I think you'll really enjoy this stuff. Like, it'll get you thinking. And so he did, and I was like, holy shit, this is all the stuff that I've been trying to articulate about the way that I see stuff. And so there was a lot of alignment, like intellectual alignment there. So all of that, and I sent you that note because I was like, it fucking worked, man. I did it. I did the thing that you've been talking about, and it fucking worked. And I got my first client in a few months after.
If I could just pause you there for a second, a lot of people hear about category design and becoming known for a niche they own, and being different, not better, and not competing, but creating, and, all the good stuff, right? And they go, oh, yeah, that sounds so great, but that shit doesn't really work, does it? And even if you're a believer when you first start, there's always part of you that are like, this is the exact opposite of what I've been trained in. And it makes sense to me, but you can't really believe until you believe, right? And so what's it like, that moment where you realize you did all this different shit and it worked?
It was freeing. It rewires your brain.
Say more about that.
Well, before you make your first dollar, your first digital dollar all on your own, you have this limiting belief that there's a ceiling or what is or isn't possible. And then all of a sudden you go out there and you tell people how you see the world, and you get them to see the world through your eyes, and they go, I want that shit. And then they give you their money. And then you go, holy fuck. There's no limit. There's absolutely no limit to what is possible. Like, if I did this once, I can do this again and again and again and again.
And some people describe that, Nick, as a before and after moment, or sometimes we hear descriptions like, there was my life before this and after this, or they call it a seminal moment, or something along these lines. How did it feel for you?
I remember going downstairs. Like, I work out of my house, so my office was upstairs, and I go downstairs into the kitchen to see my wife, and she's looking at me. She's like, "You look different." And I was like, first client. She's like, "We're here. You did it." Like, there's a long way to go, but that moment, because there were so many nights you sit on the couch and we're like, did I fuck up? Did I make the wrong choice? Did I do the wrong thing?
You should have gone to work at the DMV, Nick. Good government job.
Yeah, that was probably the safer bet. And I was like, is this really going to work? There were a lot of nights of, is this really going to work? Or did I just ruin this did I just screw our family over? And once you get that first yes, you realize that there is no limit. You realize that you can in fact do this thing. But and there's a million more miles to go, because one yes doesn't put food on the family for life.
And that feeling of, it's like that you imagine sort of cave woman and caveman going, I make fire. Like, it's like, oh my God, look at what I can do. Right. Did you have that? I can make fire. I can make revenue out of nothing. I can have a conversation with somebody and share some content with them, and they go from not knowing me and being not very interested at all in anything I have to say or do to they just Venmo'd me a bunch of cash.
Not only that, but it's when you start talking about an idea and then people start tagging you and shit. And they're like, this guy is the guy for that thing. So just the other day, someone put out a post and they were like, oh, where do people go to get information about being a solopreneur and figuring all this stuff out? And like 16 people tagged me, 15 of whom I have never talked to. I have no idea who these people are. It's like, oh, well, I'm now tethered to this idea.
Yes. And this is another mind warp for people. We say things like the category makes the brand. The category is the strategy, et cetera, et cetera. And what you just said, Nick, is they tag you when your topic, in your case, solopreneurship and how to be successful when you go out on your own, when that topic comes up, people you don't know start tagging you. That's called being known for the niche that you own. And what most people don't realize is it's the thing, in your case, solopreneurship, that they're interested in. And because you are the recognized category king, thought leader, however you want to describe it, when people are interested in the thing, solopreneurship, they're interested in you. But the mind screw is that they're not interested in you for you. They're interested in you on this topic and what you on this topic can do for them. And the whole world of branding, marketing, and God forbid, personal branding, hey guys, it's me, I'm having a burrito. All of that stupidity, right? No one cares. The reason Nick has become successful is because you're a leader in a category that matters to people. And was that part of the mind warp for you?
This is something I've always known. Like, I've felt it to be true, and until it snaps into focus and it snaps into place, like that puzzle piece clicks in and you're like, yeah, sure. And then all of a sudden one day it happens and you're like, because you question yourself first. You're like, is this shit really gonna work? Is this shit really true? Like I've been working on this thing for this long, and I've been beating this damn drum for all this time, and then one day it snaps into place, and you're like, I fucking knew it. I knew it was gonna work. I knew
the force was real. I knew it.
So speaking of, you knew that it was going to work and you knew that it was real. I would love to dive in a little bit to, obviously, like you mentioned, emotions. It was a difficult thing for you to do. You were doubting yourself. And then once it worked, you kind of had this boost of confidence. Was it relatively easy going forward? Like from there, you were like, okay, I have this confidence. I can use that to continue to push and build. Like, I'm kind of curious how it's evolved over time and what you've seen, especially with people that you coach and who go through your program. What does that emotional roller coaster look like?
Yeah. It's a steep climb from the first yes, but it's an interesting evolution because the first thing I did, I wanted to sell them to marketing agencies, and I was trying to explain and help them niche down. So I just called it what it was: agency, niche, design. That's what I called it. And for way too long, people, and I actually made this entire spectrum of like category design is not for agencies, and niche down is for someone who sells popsicles. It's like there's something in between. There's a middle ground. So I tried to create this mind space because everyone had this wrong idea of what niching down was and way too big of an idea that felt way too overwhelming of what category design was. So I was like, all right, let's create a new space for this to occupy. And so I started doing that. The weird thing is that a lot of solopreneurs came to me in addition to the agencies, and they were like, I'm not an agency. It's just me. I'm an agency of one. And I have that problem. Can you help me?
We love weird data.
Market the problem. It doesn't matter what the hell you say. I could be like, this is for underwater basket weavers. And they'd go, well, I'm not an underwater basket weaver, but I have this problem. Can you help me? This is how it works, because they don't care about, all you're doing is when you say things like agencies or underwater basket weavers, it's a filter for people to perceive the thing. But when you nail the problem, people who have it raise their hands. So these people came to me and they were like, I have this problem. And more solos than agencies. At one point it just tipped and it was like 99% solopreneurs. And I was like, okay, I think I just need to read the signal here.
And Nick, what was the elapsed time between that aha moment and, summer of 23? I'm just trying to get a feel for the time.
It was probably 6 to 9 months of doing work with agencies, and then the shift, and then the full flag planted in this idea that it's only going to be solopreneurs now. Wow. It's not worth my time to try and convince the agencies who were largely unwilling versus the motivated solopreneurs who were like, please save this for me. So 6 to 9 months ish of doing the work and then making the public declaration that this is now the new thing.
Can I ask you also, the whole kind of 5 stages of grief and all that kind of stuff, like 6 to 9 months, can you walk us through the emotional journey? Like, so the layoff happens, and then walk us through, like, in month 1 to month, 9, roughly speaking, like what's your emotional journey feel like?
Every day is what I call it's like a emotional whiplash, because you get super high off of the yes, and then you get a bunch of no's, and then you get a bunch of bad fits, and you get a bunch of good fits, and every day was like that. But I think the closer you get to hitting everyone has this made up benchmark in their mind of how much money they need to make in order to survive, and it's how much they were making at their last job. That's whatever that is for you. That's the number that everyone's trying to clear. Once you hit that number, you're like, okay, I can chill out for a minute. I can breathe again. And so it was always just a crawl or a claw to hit that number. And then once I hit that number, you kind of feel like, and it's always the fastest path to hitting that number. So when you see all the solos come in, you're like, let me course correct. So, and as an emotional thing, it was more so, Like it wasn't how to describe this. It was straight up just do what needs to be done. I don't know any other way to describe it.
Yeah.
There was no time to sit there and think too hard about it, I guess, because it just needed to be done.
And did you have like a support system or people like that were kind of like how did you handle the emotional whiplash?
Did you have wealthy parents who gave you $100 million?
No, but that would be nice. My my wife is my business partner, and my dog are my business partners. Especially in those early days, like they don't know that they were your business partners, but they bear the brunt of a lot of that. Slowly, I got introduced to a few people who then started a small Slack group for us to chat, and then that's grown now to like 40 or 50 people, just organically, of just close connections, bringing in other close connections. And it's become one of my favorite corners of the internet because it's very much all solopreneurs just trying to figure the same thing out. And at varying different stages, like some people are about to quit their job and some people have been doing it for 5 years and are doing $500,000, $1 million. So there's and everything in between. But finding that tribe was probably the greatest. Like you find your coworkers again, basically. Like you don't feel so alone because at least you can share something that you're struggling with. You can share something that went really, really well. I met my co-founder, my full Stack Solopreneur co-founder, Erica Schneider, in there.
I love that, through your tribe. That's great.
You know, the other thing that's interesting, you just mentioned, Slack channel. How many people were in the Slack channel?
When I joined, it was 3.
And what is it? What did it grow
45
to?
now.
Yeah. So I think people could hear that and go, those don't sound like big numbers. I thought you had to have 12 billion followers on social media. And Gary VD told me I needed, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And you hear all these big numbers and, Mr. Beast has 12 billion views. And,
you need one person. You don't even need 3 people. You need one.
This is the thing. An audience of 3 committed people who are the right people for you, that might be it. Right, an old buddy of mine, Matt Johnson. He was actually the original producer of our podcast. He talks about being micro famous, and it's I'm not a big famous guy, but the concept is really great, which is I'd rather matter to 12 people than be irrelevant to 8 billion people.
I met yes, 100%. I met my friend John through a mutual connection. The CEO of DataBox introduced us because John was the marketing director over there. He went out on his own and Pete knew what I was doing. He's like, hey, John, I think you should meet this guy. So we got together and we like jamming. He was like, hey, let's just jam every month. Just throw it on the calendar. Like make this recurring. It's like, cool. A month later, we jam. A month later, we jam. He goes, yeah, I jam with my friend Andrew every month. I feel like you'd like to jam with Andrew. I feel like you guys would like to jam too. And then all of a sudden there's a Slack group. There's 3 people there. Hey, my friend Brendan, he's been doing this a while. Every time I jam with Brendan, I learn a lot and I feel really good about myself and in my life and all the stuff. Every time I talk to Brendan, maybe we should. And all of a sudden that's where it goes. But one person, like it's just it was just me and my friend John. That was it. And that made the biggest difference across the board. Finding one person to jam with.
So it's fascinating. Like you have this, I think you're naming problems that we've been working on trying to name, but you've done it so well, Nick, there's going to be emotional whiplash and you got to have grounding, your wife and your dog or whatever. Like you need people who are there for you, without unconditionally, right?
And dogs are some of the best people.
Dogs are some of the best people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is you got to find your tribe, right? And the tribe doesn't have to be big, but it's all people kind of doing the same thing.
Solving the same problem.
Solving the same problem.
That
Some
was
are
it.
further along, which is great. Everyone wants to help each other out. There's no strings attached to it. And then the third one that I'm hearing you say is you kind of got to just jam and not worry about the money. And at some level, when you jam, you find people to jam with. You're not going to sync up with everybody, but like just kind of doing the work without worrying about the work. Like tell us about that. That you were finding people to jam with, and what was that doing for you emotionally? Because we know that you're the man and you got there, but like I think navigating these emotional potholes is really, really interesting.
Everyone's too afraid to do free work. I just saw it as free work, like free consulting. Like when my original conversation with John was, the context was Nick knows a lot about niching down and creating offers. John, I think you might benefit from like chatting with Nick. That was the whole context that Pete had set up this introduction for. And so I was like, I'm just gonna tell John all the stuff. Everyone I talk with, I just tell all the stuff. The difference is that some people act on it and some people don't. But like I wasn't afraid to do the free work. Some people are, and I don't think I don't feel the need to guard it so closely. I mean, there's limits to stuff, but it's like I'm not going to talk, give you an hour a day every day for a year. But it's like for the most part, if you ask, you'll get some time. I forget the original context of the question, but it was
it's the jamming part with. So you got to handle the emotional whiplash. You got to find your tribe. And then this kind of jamming part, which I think you've really nicely pivoted to kind of do the work for free. Like you've heard us talk about be a missionary, not a mercenary. Like when you help people with your superpower, guess what? Some of them will take advantage of you, of course, but more often than not, they won't.
I've never been taken advantage of or felt like I was for doing free work. If anything,
I have many times.
Well, I haven't gone there yet. But so someone with my relationship with John, he goes, dude, I feel like you've helped me a lot. Is there something I can do for you? And I'm like, dude, just talking to you, someone who fits the ICP is enough for me, because I get to understand how you perceive these problems and how you're trying to work through them and all the things that are going through your head. It's like, can I send you some stuff for you to take a look at? Like he's helped me in 1,000 ways, but it just started with me just being like, how can I help?
And there's a fascinating thing here, which is on one hand, we want to be focused on getting business done, putting moose on the hood, food on the family. Absolutely. And I don't know anybody legendary in business who doesn't develop a sixth sense around, okay, ta-da, the puck is going in the fucking net and the red light is going on. However, multiple things can be and should be true at the same time. The flip side of that coin, at least for us, my dear friend, God rest his soul, Bill Walton, said to me, Christopher, you're a teacher. It took me 2 years to understand what he was telling me. And what the aha that happened for me as a result of Bill was when you take a teacher mindset, when you take a learning, teaching mindset, not a marketing and sales mindset to a business conversation, there's a very interesting thing that happens. And, we at Category Pirates got taught this by our friend Rafi, the pricing genius, Rafi Muhammad, which is where we landed is we have two prices, extremely expensive and free. And to your point, when there are other smart people who care about the same things, specifically the same problems that you care about, and we say, okay, for this conversation, for meeting this person, for the time being, I'm going to put my sales, marketing, puck goes in the net, moose on the hood lens to the side, and I'm going to hang out with my learner or teacher lens, because this is a generically smart person who cares about very similar things. And I want to see if I can make a difference for them and vice versa, as kumbaya and corny as that might sound to some. But when you show up agenda free like that with people who share interests with you and you jam, and that's the word we love too, Nick, because that's what it feels like. When Eddie and I first talked, we had no idea we were starting a company and we were going to find Katrina and we were going to do all these things. I just reached out to him because I thought his work was amazing and I wanted to talk to him.
You know what's cool about all this? Because like I'm just kind of riffing on all like, ground your emotional whiplash. Maybe it's run with your tribe. That African proverb of if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. And so that's what you're describing. And then the last one, I got my always be jamming, because that's what I think I'm hearing you say is you never know if you help somebody, it'll come back to you at some point, right? But you also don't know when you're jamming, someone's going to give you the magic feedback that's like, oh, that's the missing, like a comedian working a line or a bit at a comedy club. Or one of my favorites is like I think there was a podcast where Matt Damon is talking about him and Ben Affleck, their Good Will Hunting script. And I didn't realize apparently the original script had a whole second half of the movie. It was where Matt Damon's character, realizes his genius and then joins like the NSA or CIA and there's a whole spy novel after that apparently. And they met with the famous screenwriter, William Goldman, who, he was reluctant to talk about it, but he was, because the rumor was that he had some writing credit on. He's like, no, I didn't do anything. All I did was first part of the script is great. Lose the second part, the whole spy novel stuff. And that's the movie that they had there. Right. And that you don't get that kind of feedback unless you're always be jamming. Like if you're always jamming, someone's going to give you feedback. It's going to come back around and help. And that part I think is a real litmus of like, of course you need to put food on the family as we've been talking about. But if you get joy from always be jamming, then that's a really good sign that, you'll be in the right headspace to continue forward and, harness and hone, no pun intended, to get to where you need to be and stuff. So
that's the name. I think one of the things that you talk about too with like the emotional whiplash, it doesn't go away. Your tolerance for it goes up.
That's genius.
It's the same. Like every day, it's still the same stuff. It's just you're used to it. So you got to get hit a little harder in order to feel it.
Nick, there's something else I want to dive into off of this too is, and maybe this just comes from reps and like you were saying, you just get used to managing the emotions and doing all of this by exposure. And I feel like part of that exposure is publishing online. And, we follow each other on LinkedIn, you publish the podcast. I kind of want to dive into a little bit about when you started doing that and how you were able to kind of build your intellectual capital. And maybe this also came in tandem with building these relationships and meeting these people and having this community to be able to like and share your stuff online. And so can you walk us through a little bit about what you've done personally in order to build that online for yourself, and then also what you've seen works well for other people too that you're working with?
So the podcast is the single most effective tool for not only meeting people, but sharing, preaching the gospel. Period.
Yeah, but Nick, there's 4 million podcasts in the world and nobody will going to listen to any more new podcasts. And nobody has any time for long form content. It needs to be memes and TikToks. And so podcasting's over, Nick. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
People fucking told us that 7 years ago, by the way. The 7 years we've been podcasting. People said the exact same thing. We've been Substacking for what, 4 years now, maybe? When we started our Substack, it's too late, man. Everybody's got a Substack. Nobody's going to read 4,000 words of business content. You need to forget it. You shouldn't do that. You should just go home and freaking die. Everybody just tells you, no. Yeah. So tell me again why podcasting's smart.
Yeah, I guess turns out they were wrong, right?
It turns out they are assholes. They have no idea what they are talking about.
Yeah, the podcast is the single most effective tool for meeting people and for sharing your point of view. I mean, there's no period, like full stop. your ability to go and reach out to anyone you want and jam with them. As I will say this with the caveat of, you need a real premise. Chris, I've heard you say this 1,000 times. It's like raw, unfiltered, uncut. Like those types of podcasts are the same podcast, though, copy and pasted over and over and over again, of people just pretending to talk about something or talking about the same thing over and over and over again. It's not just because it's uncut doesn't mean it's interesting. So having a strong premise and spending a lot of time, I probably labored over the premise of my show for like months, longer than I needed to, but I wanted to get it right so that it was compelling.
What is
right?
it?
There's motivation to subscribe.
Give it to us. What's the premise? What did you conclude?
It's a lot of what you described this conversation as. Like, there are a lot of people who have made a bet on themselves to build a business that serves their life. And you hear a lot of online and in your LinkedIn feed about what it is to be a business of one. I think that's bullshit. So I want to hear about the reality of building a business of one, the uncommon routes that people take to do this work. Because it turns out it's not all just build an audience, sell a course like they want you to believe. And everyone has taken a different path up the mountain.
And it's called 1,000 Routes. You can go subscribe and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Please subscribe everywhere you listen to great podcasts.
Like, subscribe, and leave a nice review, would you? Would it kill you?
And then I'm curious, Nick, like, so you have the podcast 1,000 Routes, the most effective tool, this idea that there's not one way, there's many different ways of getting to, kind of your dream solopreneur gig. And then I'm trying to figure out, like, of all the stuff that you offer, that's kind of your best intellectual capital, whether it's a test or a lens or a tool or wisdom or an outcome, like all the stuff that you have. Do you have a feel for, like, what, I don't know how to ask this question, like, what percent of the stuff that you knew before that you've run through the podcast and it's gotten better and sharper as a result of that? Or are there new things that you're like, as you're talking and jamming with somebody, you're like, oh, that was really smart what we just talked about. I'm going to turn that into something that I can sell or create as a digital asset. Like, do you have a feel for, like, how much of, when you look at the stuff that you have now in your portfolio that kind of is the most successful, drives the most outcomes, that you can monetize the most, that people talk about, like, wow, Nick really helped me with that. Like, how much of that did you have before or was optimized through the podcast?
So there's a fire truck outside.
You can wait for a second. We can hear it.
There's a fire truck. I live next to the fire station, so it happens all the time. Yeah, everything. So I went through Shift 30 for 30 in January of 2023, and one of the things that they really hammer into you is make noise, listen for signal. Well, like, the podcast is the make noise part of that equation. So you have the conversations, you hear what people have to say, and over and over again, people say a lot of the same things that they struggle with. Oh, it's making offers is really hard. Marketing myself is really hard. I came from a tech background. I market tech, but marketing me is weird. It's different. I don't really know exactly how to approach that. Sales is really hard. I'm a marketer. No one's ever even taught me how to sell. I have no clue how to sell. It's like, oh, these three skills come up over and over again. So there's a lot of recurring themes. So yeah, I mean, my entire platform has been either validated at some point or been refined to meet people where they're at in that way. And the podcast That's just awesome. Reinforces all of that. I mean, the writing definitely helps. I don't think I'm the strongest writer in the world, and it takes me a long time, and I definitely have some of the dysphylexia that Chris talks about. So sometimes that jumble of letters makes it just like a real grind to put out something that I'm super proud of that's written. So, but the written content mostly comes from, hey, I've heard this same insight over and over again. So let's tell people about that. Make that more visible, make people feel not so alone. Like, that's a big part of my premise, is like, everyone has this problem. Everyone has this, like, I am really good at a thing, but I'm not sure how to package, market, and sell it. Yeah. And being able to show people that they're not alone has been a massive amount. Like that has amplified my message significantly, and also amplified my ability to like generate revenue for myself.
Well, I think you just laid out the fourth thing that I'm hearing now, right? If there's kind of, I keep iterating it as we learn from you, Nick, is like, increase your emotional whiplash tolerance. Like, number two, find your tribe, run with your tribe. Number three, always be jamming. You like that one. And then number four is, I'm hearing commit to the craft, right? Because like I don't think I was a strong writer, but I think at some point when I started, I was like, you know what? The more I do it, the better I'm going to get, and the sooner I start, the better off I'm going to be. And that I'm not worried about this next piece, but I am in love with the writer that I will be 10 years from now if I keep doing that. So, I mean, I'm assuming you weren't a podcaster before you started your podcast and the like, right? But there's a drive and a dedication that I think you present. I don't know what your friends and what your wife would say, but you present as an intense person. I don't know
that's an accurate
assessment. Good. But that drive it feels like the commitment to the that's the best way I can describe it. Commit to the craft, like regardless of the outcome, regardless of the piece, I'm going to push through this article that I'm writing. I'm going to stick to the podcast. And that's the part, like I've often said, like my clients who are executives who often like, oh, I want to do the consulting thing. I always tell them, like, you got to be willing. It's a 10-year journey. Are you willing to do that? And like, oh, I just wanted to do something until I find my next gig or whatever. And it's like, look, there's an art and a craft to this. And you either you fall in love with it and you want to get great at it, and you're committing to things now that won't pay off till 10 years later. But that's what I'm picking up. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. My friend John always says, don't quit before it gets good. And it's really easy to give up right before the dominoes start to fall. I tell most of my clients who are earlier in the process, they're like, I've been at this thing for like a while now, and I just don't feel like I'm gaining any traction. I'm like, when you get that first domino will fall, they will all fall. And all of a sudden you're gonna be like, what just happened? And sure enough, it happens every single time. Now, but they're a lot of times they're the impatience, or like, I mean, look, sometimes when your family's hungry, you start freaking out. You try and you go do a little this and a little bit of that. Like, the first thing I didn't do was start a podcast. I waited a year to start a podcast because that's the long game. I was like, I need to figure out how to do this right now. Yeah. And what I think a lot of people don't recognize is there's two games to play here. There's the traffic game and there's the relationship game. We are in the relationship game. Like, Amen. You can't, LinkedIn posts as a means to starting conversations. Conversations become relationships. Relationships become business opportunities, or at least lead to them. Perfectly and well said. People think that LinkedIn is a means to straight clients immediately. I mean, if you're selling digital products and courses, sure, but the vast majority of people don't have the volume to feed your family forever on that.
Right. Can I go back to your domino thing, which I love that illustration. Nick, you had shared, because we met through strategy therapy and then the academy, and then you had said early on that you, if I recall, you had a $30,000 weekend, which I'm assuming is a really exciting thing. Like, I mean, maybe you've had a big set of dominoes fall before.
Was it in Vegas?
Nope, right here in Portland, Connecticut.
Can you tell us about it? Like, I'm kind of curious as to what led up to it, and then when it happened, how did you feel? And when, in hindsight, like, what do you now know about it?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of the backstory on this is I did some free work for someone named Erica Schneider. She had the problem, and I was like, let's just jam a little bit. Helped her build her private coaching offer. She built that thing to $250,000 in like a weekend. And she quickly saw what I saw going through this, which was there's a natural overlap in our work. And I was like, hey, I think that there's an opportunity for us to collaborate on something. This was like well over a year ago. So I think there's an opportunity to collaborate on something here, because people who are done with my work very clearly need you. People who are too early for you clearly need what I do. There's a really great opportunity here for us to jam and to figure something out. And after like almost a year of planning, first of all, Erica has a really, really big audience. She can drive a lot of traffic. So that was a major boost of momentum to this program. But and she's like a professional product launcher, so she knows how to condition the market around an idea, pre-launch it, launch it, post-launch. She knows all of the nitty-gritty details of doing that, which is what made it so successful. But the IP itself, right, it's all the stuff I've been talking about. We package it up, we put it together into a program, and we launched this thing. We launched it Black Friday week, the week of Thanksgiving, and that first week we did 30 grand, and we did up following through Christmas an additional 25,000. And now, like after launch, everything kind of tapers off, and you have to relaunch and repackage stuff over as you do it. So, but we're up to about 70 members, so about 70,000 in that program, which has been an insane roller coaster.
I make fire.
And now all we have to do is continue to tell people that there's a thing, and then people drip in.
Story. That is an amazing story. Well, congrats on that. And you know what? Like partly what we're doing with
Real
this,
sorry to hear you lost your job, Nick.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer. It was a huge bummer.
What changed
like, my life forever.
The part that's so cool and so exciting about all that is I think what we are launching around this Creator Capitalist syncs up so nicely with your whole thing, a full stack solopreneur, and so let's keep collaborating and jamming on all of it. I mean, I have one last question, Kat and Christopher. You may have others, but like obviously your circumstance was you were pushed out. If in a world where you could go back and let's say that wasn't like you didn't draw the short straw, what would you tell Nick of summer of 2023? Would you have told yourself to quit? Would you have told and you have any nuggets of wisdom for when you should have quit? Like, should you have gone earlier? Should you have gone a little later? Like, how would you have redone that?
There's never a good time. I told myself for years I was going to go and do it. I was like, I'm just going to move the boat a little closer to the dock. Let me just write online a little bit more. Let me come up with an idea a little bit more. Let me do this a little bit more. And there's never a good time. You just do it when you do it. And honestly, I think when your back's against the wall and you have a little tiny human that relies on you and all these things in your life, like that's when there is no excuse to fail. Failure is not an option. So it's like you kind of just have to figure something out. That is probably the most motivating factor. So if I could go back and tell myself, I told my old CEO, we're still friends. I told him, I was like, this was the best thing that ever happened to me, was losing that job, because like I would have been a relic in that place. I would have never left. I was too happy. I enjoyed that place too much, and I would have never left. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me, was getting forced out in that way.
I can tell you, Nick, I've been fired more times than I can count, and I've quit more times than I can count, but probably roughly equal fired and quit. And like all things, it comes back to Clinton. Depends on what your definition of is. And I've always been amazed at how people are terrified of getting fired. And they will do fucking anything to not get fired. And their career becomes an exercise in not getting fired, as opposed to doing legendary work. And I don't know, there's like something wrong with me. I have no fear of getting fired. Go fuck yourself. I don't care. And I find most people do. And there is an element that people don't talk about, which you're talking about, which is whether you're laid off or they actually fire your ass. And my ass has not been laid off. It's been purposely fired. And that's even more confronting. But you realize that if you're in the wrong place, the greatest thing that can happen is that you free up your future, because you have no future in the place that you're in. As painful as it might be, as upsetting as it might be, and it can be very upsetting. So I'm just curious, as you look back on, you said, oh, Nick got laid off. He must be they put him in the loser bucket. Oh, fuck. I think, don't go near him. That smell might get on you, right? All of that stuff, all of those feelings you have around getting fired, laid off. How do you go from that to the incredibly confident, handsome, sexy, successful man that we see today before us?
You have to not give a fuck about the outcome. That was it. I will tell you. So I have some clients that are doing individuals doing 50, 60,000 a month. Some clients are like doing 4 or 5 and they can't figure out why they're working themselves to death for $8,000 a month.
Now, you can't live on 40 grand a month, but it's a nice start.
It's okay. I think I don't think they'll shut your power off, but you might make it. So I was like, what's the difference between these two people? The guy doing $8,000 a month, working himself to death, and the guy doing 50 or 60K a month, still working really hard, but he's not as wrapped around the axle as the other one. And I'm like, what's the difference? The guy making 50K a month is not afraid of money. When he loses a client, I'll just go get another client. Like, well, what do you mean you can just go get another client? He's like, well, I know so-and-so, I haven't caught up in a while, so I'll just give them a call, see how they're doing. Usually we'll get to chatting about something. So-and-so changed jobs. Here we go, blah, 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 blah. Something usually comes to these people. Don't do marketing in the way that we see people say do marketing. These people, the 50 grand a month guy, no website. No, like just all word of mouth and delivers. The 8K a month, market harder, producing blog articles and for 2 cents a word or whatever the hell. And I'm like, you're working too damn hard for 8K a month.
Yeah.
Raise your rates, change your this is I tell everyone, it's not about your skill, it's about a buyer's confidence in your competence.
You know what, Nick?
Say that again, handsome. Say that again.
Their confidence in your competence.
The reason why we get along so well is that I think what you do for your clients and what we do for the academy is very, very similar. Is the way that with the words that came to mind is you got to face your fears, and to your point, Christopher, like you got to, if you're worried about being fired, there's a lot of people worried about being fired. You got to face that fear. And when at my old firm, one of the key questions that we would use to elect new partners was, if your whole client roster blew up, they retired, they left, whatever, can you start over and rebuild from scratch? Which is not some of it is a competence thing, but a lot of it is like, do you have the chutzpah to pick yourself up off the ground and start over again? And you face that fear. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. And, it's such an important part of you just laid out, magic intellectual capital that you just created for us, Nick, of, the emotional whipsaw tolerance, the, find your tribe, run with your tribe, the always be jamming, the, what was the fourth one we talked about was, face your fear is the last one. And the fourth one, shoot, I'm blanking on what we talked about beforehand. It was another good one.
We'll find it.
Yeah, we'll find it. I don't remember now.
I'm too absorbed by the jam to remember.
It's amazing.
So here, I'll give you but you're saying face your fears. So our mutual friend, John Ruggie. I had John on my podcast a while ago. And I was like, John, I'm sure you were afraid of something, like, or you were afraid,
And I
this
think he
wasn't going
has
to work?
about 47 children. I think it's something along those lines.
Yeah, it's up there. He's busy, or he's been busy. And I was like, John, like, what were you afraid of? Were you afraid this wasn't going to work or anything like that? And he said something that stuck with me and has been rattling around my head ever since. Which he goes, I don't spend much time thinking about fear or failure. I don't spend any time thinking about failure. And it's like, it's not useful. It's not productive. I know how to do this thing. Time to go. And it's like that mindset, I think, captures so well, like, my own personal experience. Like, I didn't really, like, there were moments of doubt. You sit on the couch with your wife at night and you go, did I fuck up? Did I ruin this shit for our family? But when you're working, you're like, there's no time to think about failure. It's just, we have to go. Like, we have to figure this out. And John captured that so well in the way that he describes it. Like, it's not useful. It's not productive for me to think about failure.
I'm reminded of American Olympian Greg Louganis. And he won medals back in the 80s in the Olympic Games. And there was this horrible dive that he did off, I believe it was the high dive, if I remember right. And as he jumps above the high dive and does a somersault or whatever he does, and he whacks the back of his head on the board and causes a very scary injury. And I remember an interview that he did sometime thereafter. And the interviewer asked him, well, what did it feel like to watch the video of your accident? And he said, I've never seen it, and I'm never going to see it. And the interviewer says, well, what do you mean you've never seen it? He said, I don't want that image in my head, because the image I want in my head is of me winning. I visualize winning. I visualize making the dive. I visualize standing on the podium. And so I don't want anything in there. And, it speaks to this idea of when failure is not an option, failure is not an option. And the only thing I'm going to think about, I am not going to consider the possibility of anything other than my ass on the podium. It's a very powerful point of view.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you're saying too, and I've picked up in the academy, which is, you explained it so well. You're like, is this my problem? Is this how I'm going to talk about it? Is this how I'm going to get people to perceive it? Like, people want to pick a thing and decide and never waver, which I think that there's merit to being committed to something, but there's a lot of nuance in how you get people to see the world the way that you do. And if you're not willing to listen to the signal and adjust course as you go, you're just going to, you're going to drown.
Well, and if it, from a Category Pirate's point of view, we started off educating, writing, teaching, podcasting on category design. And of course, that's a major part of what we do. What we did not know was going to happen, and this is the listen to the signal part, is the number of people who would show up in our world who say, yes, I want to do category design for my company, or I want to become a category designer and do it for other companies, of course. And that's where we started, and that's still the primary focus. But over the years, it started to shift to the personal. That is to say, individuals were saying, well, how do I do essentially category design for myself? And then that leads to where we are today. And category design for yourself, or personal category design, if you will, is now what we call creator capitalist. And we had to be willing to, on one hand, have a vision, have a mission, go after it, have a powerful point of view. And yet, to your point on flexibility, listen to the signal. And so we got lots of positive signal around category design at the company level. But over time, we also started to get massive amounts of signal around what today we call creator capitalist. And so now we do category design and creator capitalist. They're from the same core place, but one's focused on doing it in business for a company, and the other is focused on for yourself as an individual. And, I'm always reminded of one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee: be like water. Water is incredibly strong, incredibly powerful, and at the same time, obviously, incredibly fluid.
Absolutely.
You probably got the same signal I got, which was there's a lot of people saying, I have the category of me problem. Like people look at me and think I'm interchangeable, and I'm not sure. I think this is my way out. And you said, well, I thought this was for tech companies. I thought this were companies trying to IPO.
Yeah. And it is, but the other interesting thing that brings up
the other one is just we have Holly in the waiting room. We gotta
we've
wrap up,
got these stacked.
Oh,
So
sorry, my bad.
No,
you're good.
I'm just having fun.
Long
Sorry.
story longer, but I think the point that you're making, Nick, and that we were finding in the signal that we're both finding is that going down the mountaintop is really what seems to be the mission. Like, you honed your skills with large companies, as did we, and then going from the business, the professional, to the personal. Like, you're on the right trend, we're on the right trend, and the whole world is going away from corporate jobs to solopreneurs, creators, solo category designers. And so I think we're all riding the same wave at some level, which is why we have fun. So,
oh, yeah. I'll leave it with this. I have found it to be way more meaningful to help individuals. It makes a bigger difference for them in their life immediately. And I think that makes it all worth it way more than trying to help a tech company go public. I mean, sure, is that cool? Yeah, definitely. Is the monetary upside bigger? Probably. But you make a way bigger difference for someone when you help them put food on the family.
It's more personal. Well, thank you for being here, Nick. We appreciate it. And you can go check out Nick Bennett on LinkedIn and Full Stack Solopreneur and his podcast, 1000 Routes.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
We're
brother.
big fans. Thank you.
Nick, if you can just, I'm going to stop the recording.